And so what's our job then? The patient comes in, do we say, hey, look, you've got a 10% chance of improvement with this drug? Gosh. Hey, you bring your car into the mechanic, I'm the mechanic. You've got a 10% chance I'm going to fix your problem. Would we run? I think we would. Now, as I said, I'm going to talk about randomised controlled trials in a sec, or after lunch now. So here's a trial of sprayed Sativex or similar, and we've got 128 people, and then we've got 50 people withdrew, then we've got 79 completers, and then we've got 34 people out of 128 who had a 30% reduction in pain. Now, let me just talk about that magic figure. Basically, they've correlated reductions in pain with how you feel. And if you have around a 1.5 to 2 out of 10 reduction in your pain score, or 30% reduction, you basically go, oh, I feel better. Right? And this applies to therapists too. So if you go to the therapist, a physiotherapist or an osteopath or a chiropractor with back pain, it's 6 out of 10. And then, you know, you have your treatment, a few days later it's 4 out of 10. You'll go, oh, that feels much better. Right? So that's where that figure comes from. So a 30% improvement in pain for conditions such as neuropathic pain is a very, very good response. Right? That's what we're looking for. And we're not going to find much better than that for most medications. So, you know, we can look at this in many ways, and this is where we have a disconnect between the research and who's in front of us. Now, we're interested in the person in front of us, aren't we? And really, with RCTs, what we want to know is the turmeric better than the chalk? Right? That's what we want to know. And with our pharmaceuticals, we don't have to be a hell of a lot better than the chalk either. And we aren't in many situations. But that's probably that's the line in the sand we've drawn as we become doctors who prescribe medications, right? Is it better than chalk or water spray? That's where we are. We're not a lot better, but, you know, we could maybe prescribe turmeric. I don't know. So, you know, we can look at this in several ways and say, look at the placebo, it's just about 20, and we're only a little bit more than that. But that's the same for any medication. And in the real world, we're not allowed to give chalk. Well, I don't think we are. You know, so I think at the end of the day, we need to look at this from a practitioner's perspective and our patient's perspective, as well as knowing a little bit about the science behind it and the RCTs and things. But if we can improve the lives of 28% of people who have neuropathic pain, like the one I've described, that's actually pretty good for neuropathic pain. So remember, we're talking about specific conditions here. And I will go into this more this afternoon. So everyone is different. And I think, Bruce, rather than saying these tablets work for very few people or no one, it's almost like we've got probably 20 tablets we can use in the pain modifying space, from amitriptyline to Seroquel. And I say start low, really low, like 5 mg amitrip, move it to 10. Because what we do is if we start too high, we're actually going to cut out a lot of people. They're going to get that side effect, and they may not take an effective medicine. And I sometimes experiment. It's nothing too exciting. But a few months ago I thought, let's try this amitriptyline, see what it's like, because we prescribe it for our patients. So I took a 10 milligram tablet. It's a very small dose, and for the whole next day, it completely wiped out. Really interesting. It's like you just, it's very interesting, but completely wiped out. You couldn't really think, very slow. And that was 10 milligrams. And so people out there are walking on, 150 milligrams. So we're all different, right? And I think we must remember that. People have different levels of receptors in their brain. Some of us, and someone, a pharmacist I was talking to from the Wilson Centre in Auckland, said she had a child, and they deal with children, and one child was on sort of 2 mol and one child was on 20 mol of CBD. And you think, wow, or something like that, don't quote me on the exact figures. But it's quite interesting. So, it's like Seroquel. I can prescribe occasionally, and I'll prescribe any of those modified tablets, the anticonvulsants, antidepressants, antipsychotics. There's a whole lot of them that basically reduce electricity in our brains and can help our patients. But, I think start slow and low and build up slowly, and tell the patient this does not suit everybody. But, 10-20% of patients may find this wonderful. And I've had people with brachial plexus problems, mild ones, who I've given 10 mgs of amitriptyline to, and wow, it's gone from 4 to 0. It's just, it's just so we've all had experiences like this. So I think we must remember we're genetically different, and our receptors are different, and our responses are different. So it's more a case of tailoring the medication to the patient, right? And I think that's probably, we're dealing with individuals. And so, really when I think about medicinal cannabis, and I'll say that later, it's one tool in our toolbox of pharmaceutical products. That's it, right? And I think, at the end of the day, at $500 to $1,000 a month, it's not first line. Because one of the other things I'm very protective of is my patients' financial well-being. I don't want them to waste money if there's an alternative that costs them $5 a month, for 3 months. That doesn't add up. But what we need to remember is that we need to have a whole list of these tablets that we just go through slowly. And if we should go through them all, or combinations of them, and still have the patient in front of us unhappy, it's possibly another alternative, right? And, when is it inappropriate? That's myself, or a former version of myself. And I had, who here has had chronic back pain or chronic pain? Put your hand up if you had chronic pain for over a year, say. Over 3 months, the definition. Let's go for over 3 months of pain. Put your hand right up. Yeah, a reasonable number. So the other thing about chronic pain is that unless you've experienced it, like lots of things, empathy is a very difficult one. I was leg pressing a couple of 100 Ks about 2012, and I'd cycled Lake Taupo. I lived in Seating in Wellington for a while, and so I had 2 kayaks, would go on the water every day. And when I'd go on the water, I'd have pins and needles down both legs, right down to the toes. And I'd push myself up and it would go away, and I think, oh, it's fine. I must be sitting on my sciatic nerve. I didn't have a clue, being a pain specialist. So I continued going to the gym and doing ridiculous things like leg pressing 200 kilograms. And the lever arm slipped, and it went, and it really crushed me. And I remember getting off, and I'll never forget, pain in my groin, down my legs, tingling. And for 2 years I was waking at 2 a.m. every day. And I just, and the empathy thing, I remember talking to my wife, I thought, well, get on with it. There's no empathy from the wives unless they've experienced chronic pain. So it was a rather difficult time, and as one does, they get an MRI scan. Unfortunately, that's not me. And on your right-hand side, that's a normal MRI scan. The discs have full hydration, white as water, black as solid. And you can see on that right-hand side for you, it's a completely normal scan. Now on the left-hand side is my one. And it shows 4 levels in the lumbar spine, which are 2 or 3 are completely narrowed. There's modic changes at 4 levels, which means that the bone basically has water, edema, in response to pressure. And so no wonder I was kayaking and basically developing tingling down my feet for 5 years prior to having the scan. So basically, as I said before, for musculoskeletal pain, loading is important in the production of action potentials, right? So here's a chart of how we sit for anyone who's sitting forward in their chair. 275 kilograms a second going through your lumbosacral disc, or 2,750 newtons of impulse. Now it's funny ending up at the engineering school with all these very, very intelligent people because I've done a lot of physics learning over the past 5-10 years as part of this loading equation. So when you sit upright, 50 kilograms is going through your lumbosacral disc, 500 newtons of pressure. And if you sit back against your chair, it's probably 20 kilograms. And when you recline, it's even less. That's why our back pain patients come in lying on the ground, because it helps their pain, because their loading has reduced. So I basically had a look at this, got myself a really nice recliner chair, stopped cycling, kayaks got sold. I used to do furniture making and really enjoyed it, and fence building, and that's all gone. The upside is I don't have to do my lawns anymore. I can't quite convince the wife to go into an apartment, but we don't have a lawn, which is good. And I started looking around at the research. And as Bruce knows, because it's my pet topic, and he has one of these at home as well, as I do, I started looking around the literature. 9 randomised controlled trials showing 60% reductions in pain. 1 randomised control showing a 72% reduction in discectomy rates using something like that, or traction. So I thought, really interesting. That's a lot of relief. So I got one, and today I stand in front of you. In the last 5 years, I've had very, very little pain. And right now it's 0 out of 10. So I'm going to finish with this video.
So Con has been on gabapentin, tramadol at times, gabapentin regularly, Palexia, paracetamol, and it also tried a few other meds, but found that it wasn't really working. So we went to Dr. Kanji, and he's been on the medicinal spray now for 6 months, has it been?
Yeah,
and it's been
6 months.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Like usually when before I started taking this stuff, I couldn't sleep. I wouldn't be able to sleep through the night. I'd wake up probably 3 times during the night just to get up and take some tramadol to get rid of the pain. But since being on the marijuana spray, it just does wonders. Like I can sleep straight through the night. And to me, I feel I can really clear my mind and meditate better, where I can try and talk to the pain. Well, not talk to the pain, but it feels like I can control it more. But so it's done wonders. My wife has noticed that my moods are I'm a lot calmer when I'm on the stuff. But yeah, it's amazing how we've gone from before taking the stuff, I would just be in pain, constantly in pain, and just the stuff's just it's really good. And
it's made a huge difference to our family as a whole, not just for Con's physical pain, but also, as he mentioned, for his mood, which affects the whole family. It's enabled him to spend more time with both our daughter here, Willow, and our son, who is a very active 6-year-old. So yeah, it's been amazing, and we've found the times when he hasn't taken it, it's really made a massive difference, sort of all round, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, without it, really going without it wouldn't really be an option for us anymore, because it's made such a huge difference.
Yeah,
I'm very
I know.
grateful.
I know it's done a huge difference because I wasn't onto it, and I was on like probably my last can of spray, and so I had to like organise it to get it all sorted, get it all approved so I can go scoop it up from the chemist. But they had to order the stuff, so it took about 2 weeks, and those 2 weeks I couldn't get to sleep. I was waking up in pain again, and Jackie noticed that she said to me, "Oh, you need to get back on this stuff. I've noticed that your moods have changed. You're a lot more, I don't know, probably short and just aggressive." So yeah, it does. It's amazing, and very grateful to Dr. Kanji for putting me on it, because being in Sydney, I saw I think 5 different pain specialists there, and same story they gave me is that I didn't qualify for it because it was for terminally ill patients.
So in summary, cannabis is one of the tools in the toolbox. It's definitely not the panacea for chronic pain at all. I think for neuropathic pain, as I'll look at this afternoon and show the RCTs, it's fairly useful. For musculoskeletal pain, I would hesitate to go there as first line, second line. Really, I think we need to look at the biomechanical loading and other things first. And I've been referred a sprinkling of patients, really, and sort of half of them, in fact, have biomechanical mediated pain, which we've been able to sort out through biomechanics rather than resorting to cannabis. And because of the expense, there is some limited potential to really make it available to all. Thank you very much.